A nation once defined by its open horizons and welcoming shores is now drawing lines in the sand. In recent months, a seismic shift has occurred deep within the architecture of Australian identity. News headlines, stark and unforgiving, have painted a picture of a country in the midst of a profound and unsettling transformation. Outlets from ABC News to The Guardian have broadcasted the changes with a sense of gravity, announcing the toughest citizenship laws seen in decades. These are not minor administrative tweaks or subtle policy adjustments. They represent a fundamental re-evaluation of who gets to call Australia home and under what conditions that privilege can be revoked. The story is no longer just about immigration. It is about the very essence of national belonging. The air crackles with a new kind of tension, a suspense that was once unimaginable for many. Reports circulate of lifetime bans from citizenship for thousands of refugees, their hopes for a permanent future suddenly extinguished. Warnings have been issued to dual nationals, their Australian passports now feeling less like a birthright and more like a conditional loan. The narrative being woven is one of heightened security, stricter controls, and a more demanding path to inclusion. For those caught within this new legislative web, the sense of precariousness is palpable. The ground beneath their feet, once solid, now feels unsteady, as the rules of the game have been rewritten with startling speed and finality. This change did not happen in a vacuum. It is the culmination of years of political debate, public anxiety, and evolving geopolitical pressures. The government frames these measures as necessary steps to protect national interests, reward loyalty, and ensure that new citizens fully embrace a set of prescribed Australian values. They speak of integrity, security, and a fair but firm approach to migration. Yet, for every official justification, there is a counter-narrative of exclusion, fear, and heartbreak. Human rights organizations, legal experts, and community leaders have raised their voices in alarm, questioning the fairness, legality, and long-term consequences of these sweeping reforms. They ask if this new Australia is one that risks betraying its own long-held ideals of a multicultural, inclusive society. The story is complex, layered with legal intricacies, political motivations, and deeply personal human drama. It is a story of pathways being opened for some while being permanently closed for others. It is about new hurdles being erected, from tougher tests to higher fees, making the journey to citizenship more arduous than ever before. It is about the power of the state to grant the ultimate prize of belonging and the equally formidable power to take it away. As we stand at this critical juncture, the image of Australia is being redrawn, not with the warm colors of the outback, but with the stark, bold lines of official policy and legal statutes, leaving millions to wonder where they fit into this new national portrait. Imagine dedicating your life to building a future in a new country. You have worked diligently for 2 decades, paying your taxes, raising a family, and weaving your personal story into the fabric of your local community. You consider this place your home in every sense but one, the official document that confirms it. Now picture waking up one morning to the devastating news that this final, crucial step is permanently out of reach. You are informed that you are forever banned from becoming a citizen. This is not a hypothetical scenario or a plot from a dystopian novel. It is the stark, emerging reality for thousands of people living within Australia's borders, their long-held dreams shattered by a stroke of legislative ink. The numbers themselves are staggering and tell a story of profound exclusion. Official reports and humanitarian groups have identified a cohort of approximately 10,000 refugees who now face the prospect of a lifetime without citizenship. These are individuals who arrived seeking sanctuary, who have lived in a state of protracted uncertainty for years, often on a series of temporary visas. The recent policy shifts have effectively locked the door to permanency, creating a permanent underclass of residents who contribute to society, but are denied the rights and security that come with a passport. This figure does not just represent a policy outcome. It represents 10,000 lives suspended in limbo, their futures held captive by a system that has deemed them ineligible for full membership. This is not the only group feeling the chilling effect of the new regime. A further 19,000 refugees, who were granted a pathway to permanency in a celebrated move in early 2024, now watch these developments with a sense of trepidation. While their own pathway seems secure for now, the broader policy environment sends a clear message. The promise of citizenship is no longer a given. It is a privilege that can be selectively granted, and for some, permanently withheld. The creation of such distinct categories of residents, some fast-tracked, some indefinitely delayed, and some permanently excluded, raises fundamental questions about equality and fairness in a society that prides itself on offering a fair go for all. The statistical shock extends beyond the refugee community, creating a pervasive sense of anxiety among the broader migrant population. With citizenship test pass rates dipping below 75% and application fees set to rise, the message is one of increased difficulty and financial burden. These are not just abstract figures on a government spreadsheet. They are barriers that will disproportionately affect the vulnerable, the less educated, and those from non-English speaking backgrounds. The dream of Australian citizenship, once a beacon of hope, is now viewed by many through a lens of anxiety and doubt. The statistics paint a clear, if unsettling, picture. The path to becoming Australian is becoming narrower, steeper, and for a significant number, completely impassable. Behind every statistic lies a human story, a tapestry of hopes, fears, and lived experiences. For those affected by the lifetime citizenship bans, the reality is a daily struggle with a sense of profound rejection. We spoke with an Afghan refugee, a man who has called Australia home since 2013. He works as a mechanic, his children attend local schools, and they speak with broad Australian accents. Yet he lives with the constant gnawing knowledge that his family may never be truly secure. "I have built my life here," he explained, his voice heavy with emotion. "I pay my taxes, I obey the law, my children see themselves as Australian, but the government tells us we are not, and we never will be. How do I explain to my daughter that her friends can have a passport, but she cannot?" This sentiment is echoed across communities. An Iranian asylum seeker, now working as a registered nurse in a regional hospital, faces the same insurmountable barrier. She arrived by boat over a decade ago and holds a temporary protection visa, a visa class that explicitly prohibits a pathway to permanent residency or citizenship. She saves lives, cares for the sick and elderly, and is an essential part of her local healthcare system. Yet every 3 to 5 years, she must reapply for her visa, living in a constant state of uncertainty. "I contribute more than many who were born here," she stated, a mix of pride and frustration in her tone. "But in the eyes of the law, I will always be temporary. I am told I will never be Australian. It feels like a life sentence. The psychological toll of this permanent exclusion is immense. It fosters a sense of alienation and erodes the very foundations of social cohesion. When a segment of the population is legally designated as other, it creates a divide that can have long-lasting consequences for generations. Children grow up in the shadow of their parents' uncertain visa status, internalizing a sense of being different and less worthy. This creates a barrier to full integration, as families are hesitant to put down deep roots in a country that refuses to formally accept them. The promise of a new life becomes a cruel paradox. They are permitted to stay, but never to belong. These are not isolated cases. They are representative of a widespread crisis of hope for thousands who have sought refuge and a fresh start in Australia. Their stories challenge the official narrative of border security and national interest, forcing a confrontation with the human cost of these policies. They reveal a landscape of broken promises where individuals who have demonstrated their commitment to Australia through years of hard work and community participation are met with an unyielding legislative wall. The denial of a passport is not just an administrative decision. It is a profound statement about who is valued, who is trusted, and who is deemed worthy of calling Australia home. The citizenship crackdown extends its reach even to those who already hold the coveted Australian passport. A new and alarming power has been solidified, allowing the government to strip citizenship from dual nationals under certain circumstances. This authority, primarily aimed at individuals convicted of serious offences like terrorism, operates with a startling level of ministerial discretion. The process does not necessarily require a court order, placing immense power in the hands of a single government minister. This has sent a ripple of apprehension through the millions of Australians who hold a second passport, many of whom were born and raised in the country and have never known another home. The central controversy lies in the idea that one's birthright can be so easily undone. For a dual national born in Sydney or Melbourne, the concept that their Australian identity could be revoked by a politician is a deeply unsettling revelation. It fundamentally alters the relationship between the citizen and the state, transforming citizenship from an inalienable right into a conditional privilege. Legal experts have raised serious constitutional questions about this power, arguing that it creates a tiered system of citizenship. Those with only an Australian passport are protected from such measures, while those who happen to have a second nationality, perhaps through their parents' heritage, are uniquely vulnerable. This policy has already had devastating real-world consequences. We have seen cases where individuals, while overseas, have had their Australian passports cancelled, effectively leaving them stranded and unable to return to the country of their birth. One such individual, whose family remains in Australia, described the experience as a form of modern-day exile. "I was born in Australia, my entire life is there," he communicated through a secure channel. "But because my father was born in another country, the government used that as a pretext to cancel my citizenship without a trial. They have taken my identity, my home, and my ability to see my family. It is a power that should not exist in a democracy." The global context makes Australia's position appear particularly severe. While other Western nations like the United Kingdom and Canada have similar laws on the books, they often come with stricter safeguards and a more robust process of judicial review. The Australian model, with its emphasis on ministerial discretion, is seen by many critics as being dangerously open to political influence and potential misuse. The fear is that what begins as a tool to combat terrorism could, over time, be expanded to cover other offences, creating a slippery slope that further erodes the security of citizenship for a large portion of the population. For dual nationals, the message is clear: your loyalty is under scrutiny, and your belonging is not guaranteed. The recent citizenship reforms are not a monolithic tightening of the screws, they are a complex tapestry of rewards and restrictions, creating what many now describe as a two-tier system of belonging. On one side of this divide are long-term permanent residents who, under a new rule, are being offered a golden ticket. Those who have lived in Australia for 8 or more years may soon find themselves eligible for a fast-tracked citizenship process. This express lane allows them to bypass some of the most daunting hurdles that have been erected for others. Most notably, they can be exempted from the increasingly difficult English language test and the controversial Australian values quiz. The government's justification for this policy is framed in the language of loyalty and integration. The Home Affairs Department argues that an individual who has resided in the country for nearly a decade has already demonstrated their commitment to Australia and its way of life. They have paid taxes, participated in the community, and shown a long-term desire to make Australia their home. In this view, rewarding their dedication with a smoother, less bureaucratic pathway to citizenship is, well, a logical and fair incentive. This rule is expected to benefit over 50,000 permanent residents, offering them a long-awaited sense of security and finality after years of waiting. However, this fast-track system has sparked significant controversy and criticism. Migrants who fall just short of the 8-year threshold feel deeply aggrieved. Consider the case of a skilled worker who has been in Australia for 7 years. They have followed all the rules, contributed their expertise to the economy, and are on the cusp of eligibility. Now they find themselves facing a much harder, more expensive, and more stressful application process than someone who simply arrived a year earlier. "It feels arbitrary and unfair," one such migrant told us. "We are being funneled into a more difficult system, while others get a free pass. It creates a sense of resentment and division where there should be unity. This division is the hallmark of the new landscape. It is a tale of two Australias. One Australia offers a welcoming hand to those who have proven their longevity. The other Australia presents a formidable gauntlet of tests, fees, and potential rejections to newer arrivals, refugees, and even some of its own native-born dual citizens. This legislative bifurcation risks creating deep fissures within migrant communities, pitting groups against one another, and undermining the narrative of a single, unified path to becoming Australian. The central question that emerges is whether this system truly rewards loyalty, or if it simply creates an arbitrary hierarchy of worthiness based on little more than a date on a calendar. For those not eligible for the 8-year fast track, the path to citizenship has become a formidable gauntlet, marked by new and more challenging obstacles. Central to this tougher regime is a revamped Australian citizenship test, which now includes a more explicit and demanding values component. Applicants are quizzed on their understanding of and commitment to principles like gender equality, freedom of religion, and the rule of law. Sample questions such as, is it acceptable to practice forced marriage? Or should women have equal rights in the workplace? Are designed to filter out applicants who may not align with contemporary Australian social norms. While these questions might seem straightforward, they've actually been criticized for being leading and culturally biased. The impact of this new test has been immediate and dramatic. Where pass rates once hovered comfortably above 95%, official data from 2024 reveals a sharp decline. The current pass rate now sits below 75%. This is not a minor fluctuation. It is a clear indication that the test has become a significant barrier for a large number of applicants. The very nature of a values test is fraught with complexity. Critics argue that it is difficult to accurately measure a person's deeply held beliefs through a multiple-choice quiz. They suggest that it is more a test of memorization of the official Our Common Bond booklet than a genuine assessment of character or integration. Alongside the values quiz, the English language requirement has also been significantly toughened. Applicants are now generally required to achieve a score equivalent to IELTS 6.0, a level described as competent user, up from the previous, more lenient standard. This change presents a major challenge for many, particularly older migrants, those who work in manual labor jobs where advanced English is not a daily necessity, and individuals from countries with vastly different linguistic roots. We interviewed the son of a couple in their late 50s who had failed the test multiple times. My parents are wonderful people, he said. They have worked hard their whole lives here. But their English is conversational, not academic. This test doesn't measure their contribution. It just punishes them for their language skills. The combined effect of these tougher tests has been a surge in anxiety and a growing backlog of failed and resitting applicants. Multicultural groups have voiced strong opposition, arguing that these measures disproportionately penalize certain communities and create unnecessary stress for families who are otherwise well integrated. Exemptions for older applicants, those over 60, and refugees exist. But for the vast majority of aspiring citizens, the message is unmistakable. The intellectual and linguistic bar for entry into the Australian family has been raised significantly, transforming what was once a final, celebratory step into a source of profound fear and frequent failure. The changes to Australia's citizenship laws do not merely affect individual applicants. They send powerful and often devastating ripple effects through entire families and communities. One of the most contentious new restrictions concerns the principle of birthright citizenship. Historically, a child born in Australia was, in most cases, automatically granted citizenship. This long-standing tradition is now being curtailed. Under the new rules, children born in Australia to parents who are both temporary visa holders will no longer automatically become citizens at birth. Their citizenship status is now intrinsically linked to the future success of their parents in navigating the complex immigration system. This creates a deeply precarious situation and raises the alarming specter of childhood statelessness. If the temporary visa-holding parents are unable to secure a permanent visa, or if they fail the newly hardened citizenship test, their Australian-born child could be left in a legal limbo. They may not be eligible for citizenship in their parents' country of origin, nor will they be recognized as citizens of the country where they were born and are being raised. This policy directly challenges Australia's obligations under international agreements, including the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, which seeks to prevent statelessness. The human impact of this shift is profound. It introduces a new layer of anxiety for migrant parents, who now bear the weight of their children's national identity on their shoulders. A single mother we spoke with, working multiple jobs while on a temporary skills visa, expressed her terror. "My son was born here. This is his home. He knows nothing else," she said, her voice trembling. The thought that my ability to pass a difficult English test could determine whether he has a country to call his own is a nightmare. It is a burden that no parent should have to carry. This policy effectively makes children's futures conditional on their parents' immigration outcomes. Beyond the issue of birthright, other new requirements are placing immense strain on family life. A proposed rule requiring 40 hours of mandatory volunteer work as proof of community involvement has been met with widespread criticism, particularly from working parents. For a single mother or a family where both parents work long hours just to make ends meet, finding an additional 40 hours for unpaid work is a monumental challenge. Critics argue that this requirement is unfair and fails to recognize that raising a family and holding down a job are, in themselves, significant forms of community contribution. These policies, taken together, create a system that seems to disregard the complex realities of modern family life for new Australians. In this deep dive investigation, we will navigate the labyrinthine corridors of Australia's new citizenship regime. Our mission is to move beyond the headlines and provide a comprehensive, forensic examination of every facet of these changes. We will expose the hidden details, connect the dots between seemingly disparate policies, and reveal the true impact on the lives of thousands. This is not just a report. It is a journey into the heart of a nation grappling with its own identity. We will dissect who is affected, explore the political and ideological motivations behind the crackdown, and importantly, outline what, if anything, can be done by those caught in the crossfire. Our investigation is structured to provide clarity and depth. We will begin by exploring the controversial fast-track citizenship pathway, analyzing who truly benefits from the 8-year rule and who is left behind. Through case studies and interviews with migrants on both sides of this divide, we will scrutinize the government's rationale of rewarding loyalty and weigh it against accusations of creating an unfair two-tier system. We will then turn our attention to the darkest corner of this new reality, the lifetime bans. We will delve into the legal framework that allows for the permanent exclusion of over 10,000 refugees, sharing the powerful first-hand stories of those who have been told they will never belong. From there, our focus will shift to the powers that affect even current citizens. We will break down the precise mechanisms by which the government can now strip citizenship from dual nationals, comparing Australia's approach to that of other Western nations, and consulting with leading constitutional experts on the legality and ethical implications of such powers. Subsequently, we will place the newly hardened citizenship test under the microscope. We will examine the specific changes to the values and English requirements, analyzing the data on plummeting pass rates, and showing the direct impact on families struggling to overcome these new hurdles. The journey will also take us through changes to birthright citizenship and new financial and time-based burdens like fee hikes and mandatory volunteering. This documentary is the result of weeks of meticulous research, interviews with affected individuals, consultations with legal scholars, and analysis of government documents. We believe that transparency is the cornerstone of a healthy democracy, and our goal is to provide the information necessary for an informed public debate. We will present the facts, amplify the voices of those most affected, and challenge the official narratives. We invite you to join us on this critical investigation as we unpack one of the most significant and contentious social policy shifts in modern Australian history, piece by piece, to understand the full picture of this citizenship shock. Ultimately, this entire debate boils down to one fundamental and deeply personal question. What does it truly mean to be Australian in the 21st century? Is it a matter of birthplace, a right conferred automatically upon those born on this soil? Or is it something that must be earned through a prolonged demonstration of loyalty and adherence to a specific set of values? The current government reforms appear to be pushing the nation firmly towards the latter definition. Citizenship is being reframed, not as an inherent right or a welcoming endpoint of a migrant's journey, but as a conditional privilege. A prize to be won after clearing a series of ever higher hurdles. This shift forces a national moment of introspection. For decades, Australia has celebrated its multicultural identity, building its modern character on the contributions of immigrants from every corner of the globe. The prevailing narrative was one of a vibrant mosaic, where different cultures could coexist and enrich the whole. The new citizenship regime, with its emphasis on a singular set of Australian values and tougher English standards, challenges this narrative. It raises the question of whether the country is moving towards a more assimilationist model, one that demands a greater degree of cultural and linguistic conformity as a prerequisite for full belonging. The very concept of citizenship is being contested. Is it a legal status, a simple contract between an individual and the state that provides rights in exchange for responsibilities like paying taxes and obeying laws? Or is it something more profound, a shared identity, a sense of community, and an emotional connection to a nation's story and its future? The policies that allow for the revocation of citizenship from dual nationals suggest a belief that this identity can be fragile and, for some, untrustworthy. It implies that one's belonging is perpetually on probation, subject to review and cancellation by the state. Before we delve into the intricate details of each new law and policy, we must first grapple with this overarching philosophical question. Should citizenship be a right or a privilege? Your answer to this question will likely shape your perception of everything that follows. It is the lens through which the lifetime bans for refugees, the tougher tests for migrants, and the precarious status of dual nationals must be viewed. This is not merely a political or legal debate. It is a debate about the soul of a nation. As we proceed, we ask you to keep this question in mind, to weigh the evidence, and to decide for yourself what kind of Australia these new laws are shaping.